that we in the West think that every problem has a solution.
Yeah.
It's possible that some problems have no solution,
That's
or
right.
at least no solution that
That
we can
we
see,
can
or that we can provide, or even be involved in.
Totally. I agree totally. That's right.
So both David and I, in our work, we talk about indirect versus direct approaches, and I think that's one. At the more practical level, this begins to address what you're saying, and I think. But the bottom line is, it's going to mean less and fewer people, fewer agencies, less money from outside, which is why I'm worried about mobilizing 25 million middle-class Americans with time and money on their hands who don't know what they're doing.
And not to say, this isn't to be self-perpetuating, but it is a very, very big world out there. And what I do believe doesn't happen is replication and expansion without friction, so that it runs down. We saw it in Nepal, where we did this program for the first time. We had 800 or 1,000 new groups formed, totally without our knowledge. Women teaching women, which I think is absolutely core. We were not part of that process at that point. There may be that there are other groups that have been formed since then. We actually haven't been back into Nepal to look at that. But I doubt, I know it hasn't become a national program, where all women in all parts of Nepal who are interested in what this particular program or something akin to it does have jumped in, learned it from some other women or some other group, and are now doing it. And I also know that if we were to go into another area of Nepal where we haven't operated as a formal program that is geographically separate from where we have operated, and said, this is an idea, what do you think about it? We're not giving you any money, this isn't a giveaway game. This is the self-help arena. And if you want to do it, that's great. And if you don't want to do it, that's great. It's your choice. There will be thousands and tens of thousands, and in fact, I would venture we would have several million women say, we'll do it. We'll pay the fees. We'll do what we have to do because we want to do that. We want to become literate, and we want to raise our income. All we do is go in and say, this is a new way to think about it, or this is a new tool that you might use, and then whatever. And how to harness what you already have. It's a misnomer to really say that I work in a women's empowerment program, really, because we don't empower any women.
Is there money involved?
What, in the program? Theirs. And then we don't give money, but we do develop materials. It takes money that then women make contributions towards buying so that they can use and learn from them. So yes, there is money involved. We are not like it. We're worse off than an MFI in that way, because an MFI goes in and is going to get a return to sustain it as a business. A microfinance institution. We don't do that. We don't do that.
So who gives you your money?
We get it from agencies like USAID. We depend on grants from the World Bank, winning contests for $50,000. That's where we get our, because we are not, the whole program, and I've thought a lot about this, the whole program is not designed to be cost-covering on the backs of the women.
That's okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with subsidy. There's just nothing wrong with subsidy at all.
But there is something wrong with subsidy if you're trying to spread a program to millions of women. Because there isn't, back to the thing that you don't want to hear, but the reality is we all know it, and that is that there isn't enough money out there to go around. And I'm willing to work on that a whole lot of money.
You're not doing loans. You're not giving away clothes, wheelbarrows, seeds.
No, none of it. We
so
don't do any
all
of
your
that.
money is to support your travel, your staff, and your material development.
It's really about material development and training, and then doing some monitoring. We would want to learn from the women how to do it even better next time.
Well, have you looked at all the different lines that are using up money and seeing whether they all need the kind of money you're thinking they do?
Well, yeah. I mean, we look at it hard. I've redesigned the program probably 3 times over since I last saw Tom. I mean, we used to pay some of the workers. Now we're getting the women to pay the workers that give them the service.
When they come for training, do you provide them with a meal allowance?
No meal allowance.
No travel allowance?
No per diem. No travel allowances.
Okay.
I mean, these are
So they're investing. They are investing in themselves.
They
right?
are, but we do implement through local NGOs primarily, not entirely. We have several programs with the Salvation Army now, which is not an NGO, it's an faith-based organization. And we do give NGOs are in the business of development, whether it's for good reason or bad reason, service orientation or profit orientation. But NGOs also can't deliver services without being paid. So we do provide with the grant money that we get primarily from USAID, I am sorry to say. We do give small nominal grants to NGOs to get the training we provide and then provide it to the women. They are the front line. We are not the front line. The NGO is the front line of delivery in this program because we want to leave that capacity behind. But that does take some funding. And I'll tell you, there's precious little out there. And no matter, I mean, I cannot expect a poor woman to pay for the cost of all of the printed materials, for all of the materials development and distribution. I mean, you can't ask a poor woman to do that. Not in their
No, I
own
know what the
future
idea
to do it.
is. I'm just looking at some of the unintended consequences of the idea. The government of Kenya feels that you've let them off the hook, and that's the first thing they want, to be let
Of
off
course
the
they
hook.
want to be left on the hook.
And they have a long history of being unhooked,
Yeah, that's very true.
going back to the early 60s, and to change that.
Then does that mean really, wouldn't that apply then to all, I mean, when we go in with humanitarian assistance, we're letting the government off the hook. When we go in to do any kind of health program, whether it's the polio vaccine that you talk about.
We've got to
or
make some
something.
distinctions, and humanitarian assistance, I would suggest that we leave that out of the discussion for the next 2 days, because it'll just muck things up even more.
Yeah.
But the fact is
I'm not sure
that unfortunately, there's a moral basis for humanitarian assistance that you cannot muster
For development, no. They're qualitatively different.
and humanitarian assistance got its problems, and there's been some great, I don't know if you've read David Reef's book, Bed for the Night, but that sort of does to humanitarian assistance what we talk about with development assistance. Every system gets corrupted, but it's just much harder to argue that one should do nothing when it comes to an earthquake or a drought.
Yeah.
It depends how you do it.